This is a space opera panel. I hope that's where you meant to be. If you could pass the mic, we'll start with Jay. And introduce yourself and what do you write?
Nope.
The other author.
Use your other author voice.
Better?
Yes.
I'm Jay Allan. I write space opera, which is why I'm here, military science fiction. I've been doing it for 7 years.
Space opera and sci-fi since 2013.
Lindsay, Buroker. I started out in fantasy and dragons and all that stuff, and jumped to sci-fi in 2016, and I'm finishing up my second new sci-fi series now.
I'm Rachel Aukes, and I started in post-apocalyptic, ended up moving Head of Toys and Plateau into space opera in 2016, just like Lindsay, and just finished up my first series, and I'm starting a spin-off series this next year.
Hi, I'm Jasper T. Scott. I write space opera and post-apocalyptic and everything in between. And I had my breakout success in space opera, which was Dark Space in 2013.
Hi, I'm Richard Fox. I write space opera and military sci-fi, and it's a real pleasure to see a lot of you here again.
My name is Martelle. I write post-apocalyptic and space adventure, and I tell people it's space opera. What we have here is a pretty august panel of space opera authors. Everyone here is successful. We have award winners. We have a Dragon Award winner. We have Dragon Award finalists. We have USA Today. I mean, we have hopefully enough talent. Hopefully I ask the smart questions. So what is one character trait that you put in your space opera that keeps the readers coming back?
One character trait I like to put in is, you got a hero who's got a little bit of savoir-faire, which means they know what's going on, they know what they're supposed to be doing, and that kind of person would generally carry a scene for you 9 times out of 10.
I like to have a conflicted character, somebody who's in a moral conundrum, somebody who maybe is down on his luck, so like Han Solo archetype, and yeah, somebody who's trying to do the right thing but has all these reasons not to.
All right, sexy green babes. Mostly conflicted. I like someone who's imperfect, someone who's very human. I want to be able to feel like any of us could be on that spaceship, and it's the situation that we're thrown into. Do we have what it takes to become a hero? And so I always like playing with that, of taking someone who seems like, you're nothing special, and then finding out,
Not sure if I have a typical character I always do, but there's always a lot of humor and banter and kind of the team firefly kind of thing going on with the cast.
I always try to scale some magic for the reader. So space opera is defined by huge empires, sweeping battles, like that. I like to try to get the parts down so that you can focus on a single crew, a single ship, a single battle. And make the story about that so that the reader's not overwhelmed by hundreds of things going on at the same time.
I would say tenacity. I put my characters through a lot, and they need to be able to make it through the end. So definitely stubbornness. Also, I'm going to join on the bandwagon of the sort of the flawed character here as well. I definitely like a little conflict. I think a really shiny white hero is just incredibly annoying.
So from a marketing perspective now, we're doing space opera, we're writing compelling characters. How do you target a space opera reader? How do you identify and then market to a space opera reader?
I assume you mean besides putting spaceships on the cover, which really does work. I think, these labels mean different things to different people, but I think space opera tends to be pretty sweeping. Galactic empires, big fleets, a lot of scale. To me, that usually translates into a lot of characters and several storylines going on at the same time too. But to me, where I would say something is space opera for me, or I describe it that way, it's definitely a large scope to the story. Sometimes If it's a series, it can take place over a period of years. And whereas I can go military science fiction on the things that are a little more focused on a small group. But that, to me, it's scale, it's scope.
So space opera tends to be kind of an elastic term that when you don't define something military sci-fi or something specific, or something about space opera. Really, the title can kind of sell it. Make sure that in your title, they know that these are, empires of war, big sweeping battles, things like that. You kind of target through your title so they see it. It's not just what's the spaceship on cover. I'm not sure what I'm reading.
When I first started out, I thought my stuff was really unique, and I would highlight how unique it was, and nobody bought it. And then I said, well, if you're a fan of Star Wars and Firefly, you're probably going to like this series. So we have a lot of great TV shows out there that we can draw on. So if your stuff is anything like that, don't be afraid to put that in the blurb.
You took my answer. I was going to say, yeah, comp titles with movies and TV shows right now. Space opera is so popular right now within the theaters and all that it's great to leverage the Star Wars, the Star Trek. I mean, you've got Firefly that's always going to have a strong brown coat fan base and just leveraging, throwing out those terms. Even though I didn't think my French series had anything at all to do with Star Wars, I was surprised at how many readers would reach out, contact me, and talk about, I really liked how, this reminded me of this and this in Star Wars. I'm like, oh, interesting. So yeah, I've been really using leveraging the comp titles out there.
Pretty much what everybody else said. It's, compare it to what's popular in space opera and use those tropes a lot, like in Star Wars and Star Trek. We have a lot of tropes, things to build on. Firefly. It's just, connecting to an existing audience that things that they like.
I agree with what Lindsay said earlier. Then also when it comes time to put your space opera book out there and it's time for advertising, you know what your book's like, and you likely know who else writes the similar kind of books that you're going to put out there. So don't be afraid to, when you come time to go to ACX or to AMS and say, what other authors that should be like this book you're going to advertise against? Jasper and everyone else down this line here. So you will get the same people that are going to like the story, deliver your story.
That's right, that target the other authors, correct. I read my reviews, and when reviews say, this reminded me of X, that instantly becomes a targeted group. And one thing that I do in my space operas, I always have animals. So I do overlapping groups, cat lovers, and science fiction, and Kindle. And then you find that subset, you exploit the hell out of it. Because even if there's only 10,000 people in that subset, it's okay. That's 10,000 and you go find something else. But animals are my key to success because if you have an animal and you have science fiction, it's probably going to be space opera. So I do cats science fiction, I do dogs science fiction, I have wombats. So that's my, and that has been fairly successful at a fairly low bid rate. So we want those things, low bid, high conversion. I also tell people I have a $9.99 box set, and it was only $4.99. So that really helped the conversion rate. For space opera, what do you think the next big thing within the space opera genre is going to be?
All right, so we know it's coming out in December, and it's Star Wars. And I think a lot of people have not been happy with where that direction's gone for how Star Wars has happened. So I think the next big thing would probably be someone who could rewrite that, or like it. And then if you could just, give somebody Star Wars, not Star Wars, that sort of a sweeping space opera epic, I think people would really appreciate it as a palate cleanser more than anything else.
Except that Star Wars agree with that. Yeah, but I'm not sure I should share this because that's something to do it. But something that I feel like is a gap. Star Trek is a huge, everybody loves Star Trek, and it hasn't been redone recently to anybody's satisfaction. I think Discovery was not what we wanted it to be, and Orville was great, but it's still humorous sci-fi. So somebody who can do a serious version of Star Trek, that's a gap.
I think we'll see a lot more with generation ships and colony ships. So space opera, but a piece of the plot will be people will be based on those ships. I think because we have all these missions to talk about going to Mars and building moon colonies, I think it just expands our horizons to look at, what's it gonna look like in a generation ship where you have multiple generations going out, multiple star systems away, and see how that evolves.
I actually have no idea how to predict trends. If I did, I would write to trend and make my money that way. I feel like it's hard to see the breakouts coming when you guys are just writing anything that will become the next big thing. I joked about reverse harem, but I mean, probably the sci-fi romance is doing really well now. I know that's a different panel probably, but a lot of, it's typically been a very male-oriented genre, so I think there's a lot of room out for female authors, or men writing female characters, and also different sexual orientations, different, exploring all that different stuff out there. So I think diversity maybe could possibly be a way ahead if you're trying to break the wall. It's crowded, I would say, for not as much as some, but you can find a fan base that's a little niche that you might want to explore yourself.
I think ebooks may mimic what audio is doing right now, and I think, serials may become kind of big, something, small, novella, not one length. You see a lot of publishers, audio publishers now doing multicast, seasons of serials, things like that. And space opera translates really well to that. So I think if you wrote that in ebook form, then you might have a niche that would feel okay with publishers.
It might not be the most satisfying answer, but I actually think the next big thing is going to be the next big thing is we don't know what it is. Someone's going to write something, and it's just going to be that good, and it's going to catch on, and it really could look like almost anything, and it's going to build on itself. And I don't think it makes sense to try and chase after faddish concepts and these things. Just write a really good story, get somebody to look at it and read it, and you'll get them hooked on it. I think that's really the way to go. And, whether that's one particular storyline or another, or some way related to some movie that was just popular. And also I'd like to agree with Hollywood's ability to destroy existing franchises.
I like it. Thanks, Jay. Very good book. And that's 20Books promise. Very good book, and you'll be able to sell it. What questions do you have? So what questions should I ask now? So
Are you out already?
we're in this one. What makes a good space opera?
Who's going to answer?
All right, so I asked for that, didn't I? So what makes a good space opera, in my opinion, is that you've got kind of a grander scope than what you normally get. So you think of the granddaddy of Star Wars, and you kind of got the hero journey of you start off small, and then you get to go off into the grand galaxy of the huge problems that people have. So you take your reader from that one small place where the story begins, and then take them into all the different galaxies, or see the empires fighting each other, evil soldiers, wizards, space wizards, or whatnot, or whatever one story you want to do. Just take them on a big, expansive journey. Don't have space opera and just try to have it in like one engineering section of a spaceship. You're not going to get down too far. Go wide. Go to those crazy planets. And I think that's what something space opera should do.
Yeah, basically, exactly. It's the scope, but it's also the characters. A lot of the time they're larger than life, so they're not just characters you meet, or maybe they are. They start out that way, and then something makes them great, and they become these heroes, these almost superhero characters. Not necessarily with powers, but they could be. They just have characteristics that make them exemplary, and that sort of defines the genre. You look at Star Wars, you look at Skywalker, and look at even Han Solo. He's flawed, he's a great character nowadays. He's got these exemplary characteristics, and they become heroes through the course of the story. So you can see that evolution, that change. So that's really defining characteristic for me.
Yeah, it's about the human, they're dealing with the same kind of issues that we deal with in any other type of science fiction story generally, but it is all these massive worlds and galaxies in some cases. So world building is so crucial of doing a space opera, because not only are you just building a scene on Earth or something, you're building a scene in a spaceship, you're building a scene in a star system here, you're building multiple starship battles, and there's just so much. So don't write space opera if you don't enjoy world building, but it does, it's the nice little wrapper that you wrap around all the human conflict of what we experience today. It gives us a nice, safe way of dealing with, political frustrations that we might see in the current world. And it just allows you to pass that what if and build to a much higher level.
I think that in space opera, maybe even more than a lot of other subgenres of sci-fi, there's this optimistic outlook. It's sort of important to the genre, maybe an idealistic, I can never say chivalric romance, kind of the knight character from all the old stories is in a lot of the original space opera. I think it's a chance to, not that you can't go to grim and dark places, but to have an optimistic outlook overall. And that we kind of need that right now in humanity, so it's a good genre for that if that's something you enjoy.
To me, good space opera should have a really strong width of mythology about it. When you read these stories, there should be the scope and the characters. It should remind you of the old stories that we got from the Greeks and I think that's how George Lucas described it, was that it's science fiction but with mythological sensibilities.
Yeah, I also think, again, these labels are very fluid, but for me, when you say space opera, I'm thinking you let the story take a little more precedence than reality in it. I mean, I don't know whether that means you put a sword in somebody's hand or just you don't pay that much. You're more, let's be honest, I mean, I can't see a vision of war in the future, for example, that isn't basically robot ships landing drones somewhere. But in your space opera, you want characters, you want people that your readers can relate to. So, a lot of times, I've heard military science fiction people complain about it looks like World War II in space. But people, you do have to draw on history a little bit to give people something they can relate to. If I wrote a book that was absolutely nothing but some AI directing drones attacking something and there were no characters in it, it wouldn't make a very good book probably, and I don't think a lot of people would want to read it. So I think that's an important thing to consider with space opera is, it's got to be a real story. Space opera is very story heavy, and I think that's an important part to producing a good version.
KU or wide for space opera?
To me, I just don't think there's a choice in the genre. I mean, I was wide for a long time. I think it was late 2016 I went to KU, and it was just because I couldn't keep up with the others in my genre who were getting credit for borrows. And since then, I've certainly made more in KU than I would have made on the other platforms. I'm probably as uncomfortable with having only one outlet as anybody else is, but I don't think that changes the reality that a lot of the other retailers are weak and becoming weaker. And even in the 4 years I was on Barnes & Noble, I would say that their share of the market probably was cut in half, and I don't think it's gotten any better since. So, people should do what they think is obviously best for their careers, but I think when people say things like, I don't want to depend on one retailer, well, your thought on that doesn't change the reality that one retailer utterly dominates most of the market. So I think you have to do what works best for you. It helps you reach readers, and so to me, I say I don't think there's a lot of choice in this genre.
Basically exactly what Jay said. All the other platforms just shrunk, market share shrunk. I held out as long as I could, it was getting to the point where I was really losing visibility and money where the KU side was gaining. So I think it was year before last, I think I switched everything over to KU.
I have a new series in KU that I'm publishing this year, and then my old sci-fi series is out wide. That's been my strategy, is to, because I started before KU was even a thing, I had readers on all the other platforms, so I want to continue to make my work available to them. But I do not deny that it's a disadvantage right now on Amazon if you're not launching into KU. It's just so much easier to borrow than sale. And as of right now, it's still, they count equally where Amazon's figuring the sales rankings, and who's going to be in the top 100s and all that stuff. So my strategy has been to launch new stuff into KU and then later take it wide so that I can have it out there for everyone. I usually wait till I'm working on the next series before I take the old one out. And that's just my way to be everywhere, a hybrid publisher, I like the term, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, I'm KU on space opera. I've dabbled in wide, I've tried, I really wanted to go wide and stay wide because you had all the eggs in one basket deal. But with space opera, I just cannot financially make it work outside of KU. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, basically what everybody else said, 60% of my income or more, maybe 65, is KU. And it's just such a big marketplace. And if you want to be top 100, it's the place to be exclusive. You don't want to be wide. But I do think there's a case to be made for, the other ones, they have a smaller market share, but it's a small pond. So if you do hit it there, or you find a way to hit it there, you might just double. You know, and if it's 15%, so what? You will have 15% to yourself and maybe 10 others. So it could be, for some people, a big success. And what Lindsay mentioned is actually a really good strategy if you want it to be both places. Just share it around after it's kind of faded.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is that if you have an older title, it's a couple years old, it's been KU for a while, take the first book of that series out, put it wide, and go as a book. And that actually worked out for me, much to my shock and surprise. So, and then after that ad is over with, we put it back in KU. So that's one thing that worked out.
That's what I was going to say. I pulled the first book of mine in the space opera series and put it wide and got a book club feature, U.S. and international. And it made for a good month, and 30 days later, back in KU. So that worked well. Okay, a technical question. You hard science folks. How do you handle faster than light speed?
All right, so when you're out there doing your role building, this is where you get to lay down ground rules. And how you handle fast and light speed is a big one, because if you can just have anyone jump from any point in the galaxy to any other point in the galaxy, then you're all really in the same spot. So you need to figure out what your rules are, and then work this out a long time sooner. Because if you say it's going to take 3 days, you're going to start A to B, and then you need to get them there in weeks, or you need to get them there in hours, now you've got a problem that you have to explain or solve. So definitely put the time in beforehand. And the one thing I had done earlier was I had bad guys who moved sub-light speed between planets, and that gave my good guys some time. And they purposely not done like wormhole things for plot reasons. And then later on, I had them break those rules, and all of a sudden, whoa, the tension goes through the roof. Because now, I previously just, decided rule got broken in a way that fits with the background. So when it comes time to do fast and light travel, think about your whole series, about how long you need to have people actually traveling, and then do whatever you want. Because it's science fiction, however, just a hand wave to do sometimes.
Well, if you want to cater to hard sci-fi and people who really know a lot about this stuff, there's a couple ways you can do that. You have the Aukes drives, which you have expanding and contracting space-time, moving you faster than speed of light, even though it's just a bubble of space-time. It's all relative. I forget the exact mechanics of it because I keep having to research it over and over and over again, but if you want something realistic, that's about as close as we have to realistic for us, And anything else is basically hand-waving in fantasy. And even Aukes drives, to be honest, because it relies on things like matter and things that we can't really come up with right now. But yeah, that's it. And there's a case to be made for not even bothering and just going with generation ships and writing in half the speed of light as the top speed and things like that. Because then you have the cryopods and it all works out in the end, but kind of making a cohesive universe is tough because the timelines are all going to be different and the tech levels too, they just keep changing. But yeah, there's a couple ways to work with that.
Yeah, I take the easy way out and I do not use FTL. My jump speed only goes up to 23.4 light speed. So, but I do have, not the French series, but the spin-off series, Javelin, 8th on next year. That one does utilize some wormholes so that way they can get through systems faster because there's multiple systems in there. Yeah, so, but yeah, otherwise, I just couldn't get past the, after radiation shields, you can only get shields up so much for traveling fast, so I said, no, I'll just It was easy, my first series was only in 1-star system, so, I need it.
I think space opera more than any of the other subgenres of sci-fi probably is very forgiving, where you say, you know, Star Wars, they just have to speed, it's just how it is. So if you want to have that, I think that that's kind of a gimme, like I think the readers are going to allow you to have that. In my first series, I just did a really loose star system, so they could go to plenty of planets and stories, but we were all in the same system. And in the one I'm doing now, I have 12 wormhole gates that were established sometime in the past when we had the technology to do this. You know, it's always good. Way in the future, far from Earth, you can flow that a lot, and I don't think people are going to be too picky about that stuff.
In space opera, less is more. When you start really getting down to the rabbit hole of practical engineering for these things, you can really get yourself spun around with this because it's just not really possible in reality right now, at least how we understand it. You know, pick your method, usually what we use Martelle's drive. Pick your speed, what your maximum speed is, and do the math on how long it will take and make it realistic, and don't change the rules. You know, because the readers are sharp-eyed, they're going to catch that, they're going to nail you by it.
Yeah, I think, again, you definitely have an interesting conversation of you know, throwing everybody in some kind of cryo storage and the timeline's changing and they get back and it's 20 years later. But I don't think that's really most of the time what the space opera audience is looking for. I think it could be a great story. But I think what Richard said really bears repeating in that I think one recommendation for a writer, especially since most of us are probably going to be writing series, and so we're going to be stuck with whatever we put in place, is really think it through. Just in terms of storytelling, you know, does an ability to, like some kind of warp gates or some kind of wormholes or something, that fixes the way people can go. And that's where, you know, if your character's sitting on some fortress somewhere guarding the, you know, the frontier of the empire, that's why there is a frontier, because if somebody can just zip by, you know, at whatever speed and go somewhere, or is there a hyperspace jump that uses an enormous amount of fuel and then they have to spend a month harvesting, you know, reaction mass from some gas giant or something like that. But think about the tools you're going to need to tell a story, which includes how long it takes to get somewhere. Just think about how difficult it is to tell a story sometimes when anybody can whip up at 1,000 times the speed of light and just show up in your solar system with no warning. Not that that can make it a good story, but that's a tough one to handle as a writer sometimes because, you know, you're not giving yourself the tools that you need to sort of create those situations where, oh, they just hit here, and now they're going to jump here, and we have some time, and we're ready. So I would think about it more in terms of what you need to tell a good story, and space opera particularly, not worry too much about realism. I'm pretty fond of the ancients left behind, the unexplained, you know, wormholes or something of that nature. I use that a lot. I mean, I think that's pretty good. So you don't really get into too much explanation of it, but you do, you know, create a little order in your universe.
For space opera, what's the right length for a space opera book, and what's the right number of titles in a series?
Length, I mean, I don't know if there is a right length, but I would think space opera books tend to be on the longest side. I can say mine are usually around 105 to maybe 130, so they're longish. They're not like fantasy tomes that are, you know, 50 pounds if they're in print, but they're pretty long. And KU does sort of help that because you do better on a longer book, but I do think they're pretty wide and substantial stories. So, you know, I definitely think that's about the right length. As far as books in a series, that's a question I would have answered differently a year or two ago. I think the answer to that is as long as you have a story to tell. I mean, financially, in a business sense, if you can keep a story interested and you can keep readers reading it, it doesn't make any sense to stop. When you run out of ideas and you're phoning it in, then it's time to stop. But, and this is not just a taking advantage of readers thing. Readers buy series because they like series. They're invested in characters and settings. They want more. I mean, you should see some of the stuff on my Facebook group. I mean, they want more books in the series. If you say you're going to stop the series, you're going to put a contract out on you. So if you're writing a good series, readers should want more. If you've got a story to tell, if it's epic enough and it can go on, keep it going. But when you're out of ideas, then stop. That's what I would do.
For length, I usually try to hit around between 85 and 90,000 words, and with the exception of 2 books, they're almost all right there. Series length, I think, is a function of, reader interest, and are you still telling a cohesive story that's going somewhere? You're not just pumping out something that, I want you to release this month, so I'm going to do that real quick. I've got one series that's going to be one of 9 books that's shedding readers and it's on decline. That's a good place to end that. I got another book, a series at 12 that gains readers at release, so I'm not real keen to end that, so I have no idea what I can end. So I think it just depends on the response you're getting from the readers and does the story still make sense to you?
On length, I think 80, 90,000 words is pretty typical for the genre. I like to start out there and then balloon them up to 150,000 as your readers expect more and as you get more POV characters. This is not intentional, this is just what happens. As far as how many books in the genre, you should not do 8, which is somehow, I have a lot of series that end up being 8 books. This is not good when you do a 3-book box set because then you cannot make that work and share only 2 in the box set. Because I always have readers, I don't know, for some reason the box set reader is a whole different reader that you can get as opposed to people that buy the individual novels. So you can eventually have a 1 through 3 box set, 4 through 6, 7 through 9, 12, and those would make really tidy and they're easy to get book ads on if that's something you're hoping to do. So I don't recommend 8, even though I always end up at 8.
So I write on the shorter side, always have, I'm a Firefly fan from Hope for Life, and when I started the Fringe series, I wanted it to be episodic. I wanted it to be kind of a serial feel, that each installment, each book would be, kind of what you've seen in an episode. And so most of my books come in at 60 to 70,000 words. So definitely on the shorter end, the most space opera. And as for length of series, to me, it's wherever the arc goes. I do get bored writing long series. So what I try to do is do a series, kind of treat it as a season within a series. So I wrote, for example, 5 books in the Fringe, and then I'm doing a spin-off series, all in the same kind of galaxy. But so that way I can have kind of an ongoing, but it is different series. But they're all related, so it's drawing on the same readers. That was my thought line. So that way I don't get bored, and I can always go back to the original Fringe if I want, because I love the whole thing.
On length, I started off really short, unintentionally, it just happened that way. I had my first book in Dark Space was like 60,000 words, or maybe even just under that. And I don't think today that actually works very well. So I would say 70,000 and up, you're better off. But it worked for me. And nowadays, I'd say standard is anywhere around 80, 90,000. And I've had books as long as 150,000, so it just depends. And series length, it's like Jay said, if you're really running out of ideas, probably time to end it. But I tend to make that decision more based on what are the readers doing. Are they leaving the series or are they still reading? So it's more of a business decision for me. If I see there's good sell-through, people are still buying the books, then I'm still writing.
For me, it's length of the individual's book needs to be as long as it has to be. So as if you answer the question that your book asks at the beginning, so readers, feel satisfied when they get to it. If you make the reader happy, at the end of 45,000 words, they're just as happy as the end of 60,000, 160,000 words. So that's generally where I sit with that. As far as series length, I know how my series ends before I even start it. So I'm plus or minus 1 book, how long it's going to be. So generally I know just to get to that, I know it's going to be a 9-book series, and after that there will be closure. I like delivering closure to books. And because that way people aren't, as soon as they go out, we're in Game of Thrones book 74. People get like that, they get mad, and they come to your house. And so it's a delivering closure is what I like to do.
Do you see a new space opera series in your future?
Yes, I do have a series that I've described as Avatar meets 1980s V, but the human beings are the lizard people. Now, it sounds crazy, but in my head it's not.
Yeah, actually, I'm writing one now. It's kicking off with called First Encounter. It's a first contact situation, and it's going to move from there back to Earth, and it's going to be this whole, hopefully, like 6-book series, but maybe even 9. I'm trying to go into longer series now after I did standalones, 3 standalones, and discovered that people don't like standalones, which I thought was weird, but apparently they gonna make good business sense, so I'm going back to series.
Yeah, I've got a new series. First 3 books are just about completely penned and ready for the editor in a new spin-off series that'll come to Python in 2020, and then I have another, in addition to that, another space opera all in 2020.
Not at this time. I have 2 books left, at least in my current sci-fi series that I've been doing for 2019, and I'm thinking of writing doing fantasy next year. I am a genre hopper, I'm afraid to say.
I've got a plot on the back burner for about 3 years, and as soon as I shut down this one military sci-fi series I have, I'm going to start that at the beginning.
Yeah, I probably will be 2021 before I do a new space opera. I have a shorter series that I'm going to launch next year, but it's science fiction, but it's a little, not quite space opera, and I'm still finishing out the series that I'm writing now, so, but definitely will write more at some point, but probably not until 2021.
Good deal, good deal. We have time for about one question. Anybody else?
Hi guys. About tropes, so I just want to know if you guys have a master list of space opera tropes that you sort of refer to as you go through. Oh yes, like that one. How important they are, and are there any that you sort of swear by for when you're penning these series?
I wouldn't say that it's a big thing for me. I will say a lot of my series, especially my space opera stuff, I draw on history. Historical parallels. I mean, it doesn't mean it's the Roman Empire in space, but, just as a starting point. But I mix everything else up. I wouldn't say I have too many things that I do the same way every time.
I don't like tropes that are, it's fan service. People like to see that in there. I do have a list on my desk of, I've never used these. Or that I'm trying to fit them in. There's some that just bring to my nerves when I see in other books, and, certainly mine, so I try to disappoint them later. What's that?
Tell us
Am I the magic and technology sometimes come together? There's I forget the term, the way to do it, where it just, it's something just magically, a guy who built a power pistol, there's no indication that he could do this, and it's like, well, that doesn't. Yeah, exactly, but not, yeah.
I do not have a list of tropes. I avoid the love triangle. That's my hated one. If there's any kind of romance, I cannot stand a love triangle. I think the space opera is pretty forgiving. I've done a Starkey pilot of a regular woman, so she wasn't quite Han Solo. But there's a lot of familiar character types that I think that it's not a bad idea if you happen to like those and want to write one like that, it can be. But I feel like it's pretty forgiving. Like, if you actually go look at the top 100 for space opera on Amazon, half of them are not really space opera. No, 2/3 are not really space opera. So it's forgiving. People will enjoy the stories. And like that, if it is close to something else that's been out there that's popular, don't forget to mention that, because the readers actually like to know that they're getting something they like but different.
Yeah, readers are pretty forgiving. There's a few tropes, like I don't use the sexy green babe, haven't yet, maybe I will sometime. But techno-babble, that's another one I try not to use, where people just try to come up with real funky names all the time, unless it's a really annoying character, and I try to do it to show how annoying they are. Otherwise, yeah, if I know I'm doing a trope, I try to kind of turn it on its head, turn it upside down, because readers, they understand tropes, and tropes exist because they work. As long as you give it the right play, as long as you give it the right spin, then they're good with it. I agree with Lindsay, love triangles and money games. Yeah.
Tropes. I never thought of making a list of them, but now I'm starting to think about it. It's kind of maybe good for writing prompts. If you have the tropes in mind, you can think, okay, well, that's what's worked in the past, and then try to put a new spin on it. That's not a bad idea. I know in my first major success, I did have a number of tropes in there, and most of them were from Star Wars, also from Battlestar Galactica. But anyway, they work, and they work for a reason, but just make sure they're original, because people don't really like to read the same thing over and over.
I don't maintain a list, and sometimes I'll be aware when the Will Starker truck was coming, I got the plucky sidekick, and then the plucky sidekick is murdered horribly. And generally it'll keep readers on their toes. They're like, oh, here we go, oh, you do the old lady when people think they got a trope coming. And for the most part, people appreciate that. Just don't kill a dog, that's one trope. Yeah.
Don't ever kill a dog. One last question.
First of all, I want to thank you for validating my use of ancient technology, which I'm sure some of us have done to get around with. We don't know how this happens, but we use it. Second, I wonder, and this is a strange question in the age of Game of Thrones, but I wonder if space opera is popular because the hero survives. Goes on in the series and continues on. Or usually, I don't know, maybe you guys didn't come up with that.
When it comes to the hero surviving, just be aware of who your reader is attached to, and if you're going to take that attachment away, your reader might go away too. So, but the idea of switching your main protagonist halfway through a series it's a gutsy move. Let me know if it works for you. That's where I'm at.
I've actually done that. And one of the reasons I did it was I kept reading reviews and people saying they hate my main character. And I'm like, I don't know what's so likable about it, but now I gotta kill him. So that's what happened. I ended up in the last book, the third book of that series, I ended up switching it and making it so that he ended up turning into this villain and then I killed him.
Yeah, readers stick with series because of the characters, not more so than the storyline. So yeah, your characters, you have to know if they love them or when to pull the plug on them. And yeah, I've never killed off the true protagonist. That would be a pretty catchy move.
I think it's kind of however you are as an author and the fans that you build up. If you don't usually kill your characters, you're probably going to attract readers that like the optimistic, that like the happily ever after. And then when you kill a character, you get a lot of grief about it, which I have done and it has happened. Or even if you write a story that has maybe a little darker ending than usual. So I think there's room for both, the grimdark and the optimistic. Just whichever you are, you probably want to stick to that because you're going to get a certain type of reader that has expectations.
One of the most hated terms in genre fiction right now is subverting expectations, which is usually what you say when you're about to do something you know is going to piss off all your readers. That being said, there's a few things I'm afraid of in writing, and one of them is killing the main protagonist in a series that people really love. I just don't know that, I get up big else it is, it's So, but in most space opera, you have the hero's journey, and I think that sort of lends itself to the hero who survives at the end. He has to be able to do it.
Yeah, now for the dark side. I agree with what everybody said. It's hard to kill a main character. My space operas are pretty broad, so I usually have several main characters. I do, upon occasion, send them to the darker regions. And I do that for a couple reasons, but one reason is you kill a significant character, and then you can scare the living crap out of them 15 times, and they're not sure you're not going to kill them. If you never kill a character, they'll never believe a tense moment because he's going to get out of it somehow. So I do think it does serve a utility. Not every writer should do it, not every story should have it, but there is a definite long-term utility to, you don't have to be like a Game of Thrones massacre, but if you let them know that even a main character is vulnerable and just something might happen, then when you leave them at the end of a chapter stranded somewhere, they're not 100% sure they're going to make it out. And I do think that gives you a lot of aid in building drama and tension and interest in something. And it's funny because as we talk about this on my Facebook, they're having a conversation right now about all the characters I killed. And, I bawled, I cried, I whined. If you get people to be that upset about it, it's kind of a victory in a way because they really care. And they still care about the story. So I think you really have to be very careful with it. And if you have like a single main character, that would be I've got something to do it, I'll kill that guy. But I think you kill some pretty main characters, so.
Let's hear it for our space opera now.